And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Monday morning's flying weather looks something like this. A lot of IFR coming in from the Bering Sea, right into covering all the southwest interior here across the Kuskokwim Valley, western Alaska range into Cook Inlet, extending back up across Norton Sound through the Seward Peninsula there. And a little bit of IFR here for the eastern Brooks Range there, mostly on the northern slopes of the mountain range. And not too bad from the North Gulf Coast, VFR there in the Copper River Basin as well as the northern interior. And then picking up some marginal VFR for the Arctic coast, VFR for the southeast coast, not over the Bering Sea, improving conditions with this mass of moisture moving inland, becoming VFR here over the central Bering Sea, around Adak and Atka, otherwise marginal VFR. And then we'll see Monday afternoon, this area of VFR out here over the Bering Sea expands as well as the Aleutian. So VFR here from Amchitka Island westward to Kiska, right into the southwest coast now, improving also over the western interior with this area of IFR moving into the Gulf of Alaska, Copper River Basin there, and areas of the Upper Tanana Valley. Then a pretty good solid area of IFR in the forecast there along and just south of the Brooks Range in the northern interior valleys, and IFR along the central and eastern Arctic coast. And then for the let's see, Tuesday morning, a couple areas of IFR here over the southern half of Alaska there, and then Brooks Range, the Arctic coast, looking really good with VFR there. VFR for the Bering Sea. Band of IFR here with the next front pushing into the western Aleutians. The southeast coast, let's see, goes from marginal VFR Monday afternoon there to marginal VFR Tuesday morning with some VFR, but IFR, Lynn Canal Glacier Bay area over toward Yakutat. And then for the afternoon time frame, marginal VFR, Prince William Sound, actually Kenai Peninsula here, right on down toward Dixon Entrance. Big area of IFR over the southeast interior that extends along and down to the Alaska Range here, maybe even the Talkeetnas into Turnagain Arm. Also some IFR, North Slope, and much of the Arctic coast, VFR to the north, all along the Yukon River Valley there, right out to the Delta, and a lot of VFR here from the Bering Strait down into the eastern Aleutians. Narrow band of lower conditions with that front. Doesn't appear to be too strong, moving across Adak and then into Atka Island. And for the passes for the Brooks Range for tomorrow, occasional IFR for both Anaktuvik and Adigan, and a chance of some IFR for Lake Clark and Merrill, especially early on, and rainy, probably lower conditions earlier in the day, which possibly could be IFR. Excuse me, IFR becoming marginal VFR. And then for windy, chance of IFR as well. Isabel, IFR. And Mentasta also calling for IFR, as well as Tanita and Portage, but Chilkoot and White, marginal. And moving on to the freezing levels, 2,000 feet here up into the southwest interior, southern Kuskokwim Valley, then cutting across the North Gulf Coast, and then down over the Panhandle. And we've got 6,000 feet here up to about Kodiak Island. And for icing, a lot of big area moisture coming in, so isolated moderate icing here. Eastern Bering Sea up in all along the Yukon River there to the Brooks Range, and then extending southward here. This area pushing east-northeastward throughout the day, and this would be about the position in the mid-afternoon hours. Heavier icing possible down toward Kodiak Island, then a break, and then some more icing farther out to the west. And all of this staying to the west of Yakutat and the Panhandle and along and south of the Brooks Range. And for the jet stream, you can see southwest flow here across central and southern part of the state there, pushing that area of moisture eastward up to about 105 knots there down toward the Alaska Peninsula. And then northwest winds, 125 knots over the western Bering Sea. 9,000 feet, we've got northwesterlies here across the Bering Sea becoming west-southwest. About 40 knots over a big area of the mainland here, and then back around to the east at 40 knots there for the western Arctic coast. Northwest winds up to 65 knots coming down over the east central Aleutian areas, and about 40 knots over the northern Panhandle. for 3,000 feet. Pretty light winds here, eastern Gulf of Alaska and the southeast coast, as well as the central and eastern interior. Easterly winds 35 knots over toward Barter Island, kick up to about 45 knots there toward Point Lay, and then southwest, west-southwest 35 knots in along the southern coast of Norton Sound there, as well as the Yukon Delta. Northwesterlies, northwest, 40 to 50 knots there from the Pribilofs on down toward the eastern Aleutians. And for turbulence, with an increase in the winds again, next system pushing into the western Aleutians, so considerable moderate turbulence developing in the afternoon hours there for the Amchitka Island area westward, or actually Kiska Island westward to Shimei and Attu, and also look for considerable moderate for the Alaska Peninsula up toward but not quite reaching Kodiak Island, and then with those stronger winds there along the western Arctic coast, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, and then along the western Alaska Range. Otherwise, a pretty smooth day for the interior as well as the southeast coast.